Who could ever do anything or experience anything if our ego doesn't exist? Let me explain the answer to this question from a text that is very dangerous to the existence of your ego. In the greatest non-dual text in the world, there is an emphasis on that the ego does not exist. The ego is an illusion that we all buy into, and then we create the world of suffering around us. And one of the most important texts to understand this is the Avadhuta Gita. Now, in the Avadhuta Gita, there are many verses from Lord Dattatreya about the illusion of the ego and what the ultimate reality of existence is. I want to explain to you today a very important verse about the illusion of the ego and the true nature of the undifferentiated consciousness that you and I actually are. An object cannot be infinite by nature. Matter cannot be reality itself. Truly, the Atman alone is the supreme reality. It is neither injurious nor non-violent. In this verse, you see that the Atman, the undifferentiated consciousness, which is identical with Brahman, the ultimate reality, is neither this or that, neither good or bad. No dualistic perspective that the ego can come up with that cannot answer what the Atman actually is. When you have a concept or when you have an idea or a feeling or an emotion to describe the Atman, you're already gone down the wrong path. It is neither this or that. It abides and actually is ever present as it is and cannot be described in that way. We can have terms of oneness and non-duality and undifferentiated consciousness, and these are all useful terms to describe it. But we can't relate it to any sort of emotional feeling or being injurious or non-violent, for example. And so Lord Dattatreya here is even having a go at ahimsa, not in a very negative way, but saying that it's even beyond that. It's even beyond ahimsa. You can practice ahimsa, and that's a great path to follow in and of itself, the path of non-harming. But Dattatreya here is trying to explain it's even beyond that. It's nothing that you can come up conceptually with. You can be as pious and moral as you want, but you still won't understand the true nature of reality because you could think the true nature of reality is found through your morality and being pious, but it's not. And so to highlight this, there's a very clever verse in the Katha Upanishad that I want to read to you so you can get an idea of what Dattatreya is driving at within this verse in the Avadhuta Gita. If the killer thinks he kills, and if the killed man thinks he is killed, neither of these apprehends aright. The self kills not, nor is it killed. I love this quote from the Katha Upanishad because it highlights the fact that the Atman is beyond all of this. The Atman neither kills nor is killed. So in the quote it says self. Self here means Atman. That's self with a capital S. That means Atman, undifferentiated consciousness. And so it neither kills or is killed. And so in the Upanishad it says neither apprehend aright because one sees that it is the killer and or is killed, but the Atman alone is beyond all of that. This is the world of jiva that we could be talking about, the killed and the one who is the killer. But from the perspective of the Atman, the undifferentiated pure consciousness, none of this even happened. You are beyond all of that. There is no killed or killer. No one has ever done anything actually. That's the true nature of non-duality. No one has actually ever done anything. And like in the Bhagavad Gita, where we've got nishkarma karma, not being attached to the fruits of one's actions, is because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is trying to influence Arjuna to go into battle against his cousins in the great war of Kurukshetra that we find in the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Mahabharata. And so he's trying to say that you need to just fulfill your duty. You need to just allow the will of the divine to take place. And you have to take yourself out of the equation, meaning the jiva, Arjuna's jiva, has to move aside to allow the world to run its course without any interference. This is an identical idea within Taoism with wu-wei, effortless living, non-doing, but most importantly, non-interference. And so you allow the world to run its course. And this is what Dattatreya is saying in this verse, that the Atman alone exists, and all of these things just happen in and of themselves. And it is beyond your will as a person. It just happens. Now, you can't explain why, but if you abide in the Atman, and if more of us actually were abiding in the Atman, then there would be a lot more peace and harmony in the world, obviously, because people would be seeing reality purely without their conditioning interfering with the reality around them, without pushing their or superimposing their perspective and agenda onto the world. You're just in a state of abhaya mudra, of just you're good and you're allowing the world to be as it will. And then there would be obviously a lot more peace and harmony in the world. But there has to be a lot more spiritual maturity in the world for that to take place. And so Dattatreya does use a very graphic perspective of being injurious or non-violent in this perspective to try and pull the rug from underneath our moralistic tendencies so that we can even go beyond our own morality to see that the true nature of the world is Atman, which is undifferentiated. Nothing can describe it. This is what he's trying to say. Nothing can describe it. No morality, no ethics, nothing can equate to the Atman. You can be as moral as you want, but you will never understand the Atman. This is what he is saying. So as he says in the verse, an object cannot be infinite in and of itself, right? And that is any type of object, not just physical object, an object of knowledge, the object of morality, of ethics, of violence, any sort of knowledge or physical reality or concept that we have cannot be infinite in its nature. So you need to transcend all objects to understand the infinite nature of Atman. And it is only then when we understand the infinite nature of Atman that we truly understand, as Dattatreya said, that the Atman, which is identical with Brahman, is the supreme reality. That's the actual reality that we are all in and even experiencing. But we get caught up with being either the killer or the killed because we have bought into the illusion that we are this isolated, separate ego that is at odds with the world around it. But the true nature of reality is that the Atman is identical with Brahman, and each and every one of us are that. But we have to overcome the ignorance of the ego being the actual reality that we are experiencing. It is not the reality. The true reality is you are the undifferentiated, pure, non-dual consciousness of Atman, which is identical with the ultimate reality of Brahman. Shanti, shanti, shanti.